episode of Chef Abdallah on Dallah's Kitchen. Thanks for coming to watch this show today. I told you that one of my shows at the beginning of this season, and I told you that some of the shows I won't even be there. I'm still here, but I've got a very, very important guest that I've invited. Actually, somebody that I've mentored, somebody that I managed to grab when she was still young. I don't know how she's old. You know, women don't tell about their ages or anything. That's not the problem today. The thing is, most of you have written to me and requested for pastry. And especially somebody mentioned, who was it? I can't recall the name. But anyway, one of my friends said, I want chocolate. You know, when I asked which person, he said chocolate. You know, you can't go wrong with chocolate. So today, without much further ado, because I'm going to be on the side today. Hata sitaki kwa show. Naletea a very, very young, talented pastry chef who's also an instructor at Boma International School Hospitality. Lois, what do you call that?
Boma International Hospitality
College. Okay, that's enough. Now I'll tell you the name. The name is Lois. Her name is Lois. So, and the place is called?
Boma International Hospitality College.
Okay, so Lois works at the Boma International Hospitality College in South Sea, Nairobi. South Sea, one of the top culinary schools actually in the region, in the whole region. She used to be one of my students when I was teaching her. So akikosa nitakuja nitamchapa. Hakuna hata sijui sasa amefikia wapi, nitamchapa, no problem. Okay? So Lois, anyway, this is your kitchen. Feel free, go ahead, show them your skill. You know?
Okay.
I have full trust in you, but these people need to see what you can do. They need to see your talent. So I won't even interfere today. No questions. Relax. That's what my show is all about. I'll make it easy and simple. Okay, go ahead.
So let's start by cleaning our hands. We have to make sure that our hands are clean. Remember, I'm going to be dealing with the eggs. So I want to make sure that my hands are very, very clean before I start. So clean your hands. We are going to sanitize also our hands and make sure that they're clean before we begin.
Today's menu: molten chocolate lava with strawberry compote and ice cream.
Now, one thing you need to realize, pastry, you have to be precise with the grammage that you're using. Now, basically, I have a weighing scale that I usually use when I'm doing my pastry work. So what you're supposed to do is make sure that you follow the recipe. The key thing is follow the recipe and make sure that you get the grammage right. Before you begin, make sure that all your ingredients are assembled and you've weighed them. Meaning that if I'm going to be using 200 grams of butter, it has to be precise. 200 grams, not 195, not 120. It has to be 200 grams. So this is going to be 120 grams of butter. I'm going to use dark chocolate. I have 4 eggs, whereby I'm going to be using 2 whole eggs and 2 yolks. That means I'm going to separate the eggs. Then for the flour, I have, this is just all-purpose flour. Don't use any flour that has any raising agent. We are using all-purpose flour. So this is all-purpose flour. That is 30 grams, or maybe you can use the spoon, the spoon that we usually use for eating, 2 spoons. Then sugar, granulated sugar, just the normal sugar you use for tea. You can use around 50 grams. Now you'll realize that I have extra ingredients that I've put aside. These ones in pastry, you will always need extra flour, extra butter, especially when you're going to be oiling your tins. So here I have small tins for baking. And the reason why I have them, this is a dessert that is very simple to prepare. If you follow the instructions, you'll realize that it's very, very simple, that you can even serve with ice cream. You can serve with strawberries. So we are going to be playing around with what we have so that we can make sure that we come out with the best. So before I begin, when you have a weighing scale, remember we have different types of weighing scale. This one is just a very simple weighing scale, and what I usually do is I have to make sure that any time that I'm weighing anything in the weighing scale, I have to make sure that I first know the product that you're using. One thing you need to realize with the chocolate is very easy to use, but always make sure that when you're using your chocolate and when you're using a surface, you never mix your chocolate with water. Otherwise, it doesn't melt very well. You can melt your chocolate in milk. You can melt your chocolate in cream. You can use I know some of us are asking, if I don't have a stainless steel bowl, what do I do? Use whatever you have, but don't use plastic. If you have a glass bowl, you can always use a glass bowl. So I'm going to empty all this. This is 120 grams, as I said. So I'm going to place this in my hot water bath. Now the water is hot. If you feel it's not too hot, all you can do is turn on the gas, not for long. We don't want the water boiling, we just need it hot, and melt the ingredients. This is just butter, and the butter is also 120 grams. So I'm going to melt the butter and the chocolate together. So we're going to just stir. Remember, we are not cooking the chocolate, we're not cooking the butter. All we are looking for is melting. So just melt it. Make sure you have unsalted butter. You don't want your product to taste of salt, because these are sweet products. They don't need to taste of salt. So the 2 eggs I'm going to separate. When you're breaking your eggs, always make sure that you are breaking your eggs in a clean bowl and you're not mixing them together, because what happens, you might be having one egg that is spoiled. You don't want to spoil the rest. So you can see, I'm trying to separate, and here you are with your yolk. Just put the yolk and I have the whites. Don't throw the whites. You can use the whites for an omelette. You can use them in another preparation. Don't throw the whites. Now, if you look at my bowl, I have 4 yolks and just the whites from the 2 eggs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the sugar inside. Meanwhile, I have to make sure that this is already melted, and I want to be able to remove it because I don't want it too hot. So I'll remove it, put it on its side, and just mix. Remember, when you're dealing with chocolate, you have to be very, very careful. Otherwise, when you burn your chocolate, then it doesn't give you a very nice shine. Now, because this is already melted, what I need to do is I have vanilla essence. You can use the vanilla essence that you get. You can use, what I have here is a very concentrated vanilla essence, vanilla paste. So I want to use a spoon. Don't overdo it. When you're doing it, use a spoon. Always control whatever you're putting in the bowl to mix. So I want to be, that is more than enough. If it's a concentrate, that is more than enough. Don't overdo it. So this in my egg mixture. So you can see, this is just to give it a bit of mix. You want to dissolve the sugar. So pastry is very easy. Follow instructions and you're safe. Beat it completely. You don't want to see any sugar granules inside. You can see the way it's increasing in volume and becoming creamy. At this point, I am ready to add my melted dark chocolate and the butter. But before I do that, remember we said that you're going to be putting the flour. Now the flour, we have to sift it with a flour sieve. One of the things that you need to understand when you're using flour in the kitchen when you're doing cake baking is that sometimes your flour has impurities. So you're removing them with a sieve. The other thing is sifting your flour also, you're trying to incorporate a bit of air inside. So that is why I want to make sure that I remove any impurities. Now I'll proceed with this. So whisk it completely, and at this point I want to be able to pour the dark chocolate. And as we pour the dark chocolate, we are going to go for a commercial break. Then when we come back, we are going to fold in the flour, and we're going to put them in our mold, then bake.